in the beginning, I think it's more important at these types of events to speak with you than at you. I am no expert. My background is law. I've been in the crypto space since about 2013. So I guess I'm an OG by those standards, but by no means am I an expert. I think it's very important for people to take a step back and recognize that to be an expert in anything, you have to be very learned in it, and I don't think anyone can become an expert in 5 years or 4.5 years in anything. But I've been through the ups and downs of the market, and this is my dream, my passion. It's my full-time gig, and I'd like to share my experience with you. So please, fire away.
Hi, my name is Mongkon. I work at the United Nations. I would like to know whether you can share some information about the process to get yourself, your company, to be compliant with the regulations, and how long does it take, and how much budget did you spend on that?
Great question. So I'm going to start off addressing something that was said in the panel earlier, the whole argument around utility versus security. Until the SEC says otherwise, in the US, if you are ICOing, you're a security. And I'll give you an example why. And I appreciate what Chairman Clayton said when he said that everything that I've seen is a security. If you have a hedge fund investing in your utility token, why are they investing in it when you go through your KYC process? It's likely not that they're going to use your platform. They're not going to spend those tokens in your platform. They're speculating, right? That's a metric of investment. And that was addressed in the panel earlier, right? Speculation is okay. Tim Seymour was talking about speculation versus an investment. So that's where Chairman Clayton is coming from broadly. I wanted to kick off that way. To answer your question directly, if you're in the US, I would take the approach that you are a security, even if you think you're a utility, and I would look at the various options underneath the regulations, whether it's a Reg D offering, a Reg A Plus offering, or the route that we're taking, a full-blown S1 filing. It's a long process. It's an iterative process. We filed the first week of March. We'll have other amendments coming, which is, if anyone is in the banking, my background is banking, in the banking world, so if anyone is familiar with that, it's an iterative process to continually update your S1 until the regulators say, okay, you're good to go. It's expensive. You're going to have attorneys that cost more than me putting together your S1. Now, myself and my partner, Gerard Maroney, were part of the S1 project, so to speak. So it was cheaper for us because, as lawyers, we were able to participate fully. But, it just depends on the firm. If you go with Dentons or Proskauer or Skadden, you're going to pay through your rear end because they're at the high power and they can get you through. If you're a utility and you're looking to raise less than $50 million, go the Reg D, Reg A Plus route. Congress, the House just put a bill through that is trying to raise the amount that you could raise under a Reg A Plus offering to $75 million from $50. So that's a viable option for you. But it's a long process, it's an expensive process, it's an iterative process.
Are you going to get a FinCEN license as a money
So,
transmitter?
we're looking at that. I don't think we're a money transmitter, specifically because we're not dealing in fiat in the sale. We won't be taking in US
For
dollar.
the debit card.
I'm sorry?
For the debit card.
For the debit card, that's a separate question. So, the debit card ramp-up is an 18-month ramp-up, which will include engaging the regulators on getting FinCEN licenses or having a bank with the FinCEN license sponsor our card. Go for it.
How about the state of New York and the FIT license? Because that will
Yeah,
fall under the
absolutely.
currency regulation.
Yeah. We haven't got it yet. We're still...
Are you ready for the fight?
Absolutely. I don't think it's a fight. So I think the misconception here is that regulators and regulations are bad. I think they bring the market to maturity. More institute...
They're hard to get.
I'm sorry?
They're very hard to get.
Yeah, well, because everyone's avoiding them.
Many people tried and they were shut down.
Maybe their idea stuff.
SEC, but NYDFS.
No. How many people filed an S1 with the SEC? One. Us.
I don't
That's
know.
it. What's that?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, it's one. Us. No one else has tried. So you can't say that they're shutting it down until you try.
How about
And, one second, and Chairman Clayton, specifically from the SEC, is inviting companies to file. He's saying, please file. We want to work with you. We think that cryptocurrency is a viable future, and ICOs are a viable way to raise money. But you have to do it within the bounds of the law. And the video hit on the point that I continue to repeat at places like this and to audiences. We, Praetorian, but the blockchain community and the ICO community would like to work with the regulators to formulate those rules. Because I don't think that the S1 process, the Reg A Plus, or the Reg B process are good fits for what we're trying to do here. You know, they're very burdensome, and the reason why we filed an S1 is because we want retail. We want to go after the crypto community that isn't an accredited investor, but wants a chance at those 10x gains, 20x gains, 30x gains. And I think a lot of people miss that. You know, oh, we'll do a Reg D, or we'll follow the Telegram model. All right, you raise $850 million, it was all from institutions. Isn't the whole point of this the democratization of capital raising and fundraising? We're trying to not leave people out. You know, during the internet bubble, a lot of people in the middle and lower class were left out because they couldn't participate. They weren't accredited, couldn't participate in IPOs, right? And really couldn't even invest in companies at the ICO price before pop. We're trying to change that here. We're trying to bring retail into the 21st century.
If you are following the S1 and the total cost is for the ICO will be comparable to IPO, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you do an IPO rather than ICO?
The IPO is probably the exit strategy on the equity side.
Okay.
And as a banker, knowing that you're a banker, you get that model. Part of the beauty of the ICO, again, what we hit on in the video, is I don't have to sell my equity to raise capital to get to profitability to then IPO. Now, if a fund wants to come in, we've had offers at full takeout of the founders already, which is nice, it's flattering, but it was at valuations that I didn't really appreciate. So we pushed them up. You guys get it?
Follow-up question.
Yeah,
Sometimes the shareholders will perceive ICO token issuance as the dilution of their future income. Is there like a conflict between the
No.
bondholders and the shareholders?
No, I don't think so. The shareholders are limited right now because, again, I haven't had to sell equity. So myself and my partner and a few minority shareholders that we have that we needed to kick off this venture understand where we're going in our timeline. The token holders will love the fact that they'll get a dividend right away. Our model calls for a dividend immediately, and by immediate I mean within the first 12 months. Once we have our real estate portfolio acquired, you're getting your net percent of our profit right away in Pax token, not in Ether, not in other tokens. We want to create an ecosystem. We want people to hold our token. We want to be seen as the reserve currency in the crypto space. That's what we're going for. That's why we have that backing or linking to the real estate. It's similar or akin to the gold standard, which the US used to follow. And I think that's kind of what put us on this road to begin with, was the fact that we looked at currencies and said, they're floating against each other. CNBC will talk about, well, yeah, there's value behind them. You could dissect which one is worth more at any one time. You can't. It's a whim. It's a speculation. That's all it is. So we're trying to change that. We're trying to bring security and value back to the currency space and the currency model.
So, I'm sorry. What do you say?
Hold on, I can't see that light's bright. Oh, there you are. Okay, go for it.
What do you say to a lot of people who are actually building the frameworks and protocols that are like, well, the whole point of decentralization is no trust to third parties. Well, I'm just curious to what do you say to that? Because I think that's the reason why a lot of devs or I guess more on the hacker side, they haven't actually been complying with regulation.
Sure. No, look, I get it. It's that, I don't want to say anarchist, I'll call it libertarian view of the world, right? That crypto view of the world.
Crypto anarchists, they like it.
I'm sorry?
Crypto anarchists.
Crypto anarchist, fine. It's akin to that, right? That's what they're thinking. I don't want anyone to control, no regulations, blah, 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 we'll self-regulate. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. I happen to be a libertarian myself. I don't love regulation on its face, but I'm also a realist and a pragmatist and recognize that I don't want to get a subpoena from the SEC. So I'm smart enough to not want to go to jail. So we're starting from that premise. If I do an ICO and the SEC says, well, you did an unregistered securities offering, and they know I did it, they can come after me civilly and criminally. And I have 2 baby girls. I love them more than I love being in jail. And I love them more than I love money, right? So I don't need to do an illegal fundraise in order to make the community happy. We're trying to build our token to support cryptocurrency going forward for mass adoption. And I think that the devs should appreciate a token like this who's trying to bring crypto mainstream rather than fly in the face of the regulators and basically, pardon anyone, pardon anyone's ears, but fuck you, SEC. You can't do that. That's not the real world. The real world says you have to stay within the regulations. If you want to do an offshore sale, go for it. I mean, part of our roadmap is to do an offshore sale of tokens that aren't registered with the SEC. But we've registered 50 million tokens in the US, or we're trying to register 50 million tokens in the US to sell 50 million worth of tokens to retail investors. But I totally appreciate that question, and it's a good question, but the devs have to understand that there's a reality. The SEC will put them in jail, they don't care. So, you gotta be smart too.
So, I have two questions.
Sure, please.
So, you're filing an S1, right?
We filed March 6th.
You're in the process of that, right? And instead of selling equity, you're selling tokens which have some equity features like dividend fees.
So,
right?
what we're securing with our token is the right to the dividend stream
Right.
coming from the net profit on the real estate and the net profit on the debit network.
Correct. That's what a REIT would have done anyway, except that REIT would have an equity as well, right?
I didn't get it.
If you take a real estate investment trust,
It's
it is similar, except
similar, absolutely.
except that there's an equity component as well. So you are basically saying, okay, let me change the definition of,
Sure.
let me create a new security because that is allowed.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's
Sure.
an investment contract.
Sure.
Effectively saying that, okay, it will not be equity.
Sure.
So it won't give you ownership, but it will have the dividend feature.
Mhm.
Correct? And it will have a collateral.
Yep.
Okay. Second question is, why have you not chosen to do Reg A plus first, raise some money, and then go for Reg S, knowing the fact that Reg S is going to take, the S1 is going to take much longer?
Sure. Great question. We decided as a management team that it was time for someone to do what we did. We were prepared to do what we did. It's a matter, for me, of principle, to get the regulators, the SEC specifically, to get in line and say, okay, here are the rules now. So we filed as the first in time to file in order to get clarity in the market. I don't want to see, let's say the last two speakers that we're talking, or the last three that had utility tokens, not file, go out there, raise capital in the US, and get an enforcement action against them, and whether it's a civil fine or a criminal action, because there was no clarity. So there's two ways that regulators will look at things. And again, having my background, I've dealt with the regulators before. They'll either make rules through enforcement, or Congress will make rules that they'll have to follow, right? So, or the SEC will put a rule out there and say, we need comments. They're not doing these two, they're going to do this. The 80 plus subpoenas that went out that we know of within the last, let's say, month, are showing that they're going to regulate through enforcement. That's dangerous. You don't want to be in that arena with the SEC. They can get you for anything that they want. And that goes back to my point about, I'm not going to say F you to the regulators, because they'll come after me. They'll come after all of us, and it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. If you play within the rules, or as close to the rules as possible without the definitive clarity, you're better off. Go for it. Yep.
Should you also then have to hire a registered broker-dealer to sell the securities?
We are talking to a BD. We've talked to many BDs.
Well, so I'm wondering what they were telling you about the demand in the market for something like that.
There is tremendous demand in the market right now for something like us. And that's another reason why we went this avenue, because we need the, look, I'm not hiding anything from people. Being the first mover in a space, gives you the power to puff your chest a little bit, and you become very sexy to investors, right? The institutions want to get into the space, but the hedge funds and the institutions that we've spoken to directly say, well, we'd like to take a piece of your token load, but then we can't trade it forever. It's locked up, and there's all kinds of different rules around if we could put it on the exchange and sell it, when we can sell it, how we can sell it. If you're registered and we get your tokens, even if we deal with the 6-month lockup that you're going to give us, or even a 12-month lockup, as a responsible company, which we plan on putting people in a lockup after a big load, we could still go out and trade it. There's clarity around that. That's what they're afraid of. A hedge fund doesn't want to put money in and have to sit on tokens for 2-3 years because there's no clarity. So if we file the S1 and we get registered, they can go and trade it as if it was a regular security. So they're excited. Very, very briefly to say it that way. And I think there's even more demand than they know of today.
Mr. Armando, my question is...
Please don't call me Mr. Armando, that's my dad.
All right, Louis, all right.
Go for it.
So, my name's Jose, as an HR guy, I appreciate where you're coming from. But, you know, a lot of times when regulations are passed, it's not until a court case comes up that's really clarifying.
Yep.
So, do we have to wait for a court case for real clarity to come up, or do you really think that, you know, the regulations that have been passed by the SEC will actually get adhered to?
I don't want to give you a half bullshit answer, which would be, I don't know, or maybe. The truth of the matter is, the more clarity we get out of the SEC, where they are giving you specific answers, the better off we are. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I know that if a law says the sky is blue, we can argue for days over what blue means, or what the sky is, or this comma is here that, you know, that changes the way we analyze this, right? So part of being a lawyer is being able to bullshit, okay? And being able to fight a case when you really don't believe in it. But I think that what's going to happen is the SEC will come out with real rules, hopefully with a community view, so they'll invite, maybe not me, you know, I'm not like the standard bearer of this fight. I welcome it, but I don't think I am the standard bearer of the fight. But the community needs to help them understand what it is we're doing and what the goals are. So to go back to the devs, right? The devs want freedom. They want to be involved in these offerings, and they don't want to have the regulators pressing on their thumb and saying, no, you can't be involved because you're an institution. Or you're not an institution, rather, or you're not an accredited investor. Or maybe the solution is, what does it mean to be an accredited investor in the crypto space versus in the traditional space? Crypto investors, you know, people overlook them. Oh, they're not professional investors. I tell you what, the crypto investor probably knows more about the crypto company that they're investing in than the regular, you know, let's call it equity investor knows about Coca-Cola. They know that they drink it and they know that Coke makes $1 million a day from this one store or whatever. That's it, right? But the crypto investor knows the white paper inside and out, knows the roadmap, knows the technology, believes in the company. You know, I might invest in Coke because I want the dividend. I might not believe in it. So maybe we have to look at the definition of accredited investor. These are the types of questions that the SEC is going to have to go in after. I don't think it needs to have enforcement in order to have clarity. But I think that final clarity, that like dust clearing moment, is probably going to come through court cases, definitely. So that's a 99% yes, 1%. Let's see what happens. If there's any other question, look, you guys have been great, good questions. Maybe take this one question, real quick.
One last question.
You guys are holding up your own lunch. I'll stay here all day and talk. I think you can tell that. So,
What do you think are your chances with a bit license?
what are our chances of this? I mean, that's like saying, what are my chances of going to Atlantic City right now, putting $100 on black and then hit? I don't know. I can't. I'm not in the business of forecasting hypotheticals. I know where we are today. I think. Here we go. Ready? I'll give you a straight answer. When we are fully registered with the SEC and they give us the green light to sell, I think that gives us a lot more power to get a bit license than if we weren't. Because now we have to be transparent. We have to be transparent with our numbers. We have to be transparent with our business model. We have to have quarterly reports, the whole nine. SOX compliance, all that kind of stuff. Just like a regular public company. And I think that's what the regulators are looking for. They want to protect everybody in this room, the retail investor, not that everybody's a retail investor, but they want to protect the retail investor, and they're not sure how to do that with this new phenomenon. So they're saying, okay, be as transparent as you can be, and maybe we'll allow this. So our chances are good when we get registered. Listen, you ask good questions, but don't let your brain get in the way of your mouth. Think for a second. If the SEC is the highest level regulator that you're going to deal with in the securities industry. If they let us pass muster, I think the New York State Department of Finance, right, is going to allow us to get a bit license. I can't guarantee it, but I can assure you that they're going to look at that.
They work in separate ways. The bit license and the SEC rulings are not going together.
I didn't say they did. I didn't bring that up, you did. What I'm trying to say is, when you have trust from a regulator, as high as the SEC, it's very easy to get trust from a state regulator.
You're
What's
selling
easier?
liquidity access, and you don't have a bit license in New York. In New York, every one of us cares about this liquidity access problem.
So then don't invest in Praetorian.
That's why I'm asking the question.
But no, I'm just saying.
I want to.
Okay.
Because
But
you're
I'm-
transparent, because you want to be compliant, because
Yeah.
you do everything you want to do.
Sure. So what I'm saying to you is it's easier for us to get a bit license if we're registered than not. That's my only point. I don't want to sit here and forecast and roll the dice and say, oh, it's a 70% chance, because that would be unfair to you. I can't tell you that. We haven't engaged those regulators yet on a bit license. We haven't engaged FinCEN from a money transmitting perspective, right? But once we're through the SEC process, it brings legitimacy to our company, or more legitimacy than other companies. That's my point.
Absolutely. Again, thank you to Louis from Praetorian Group.